Stop fidgeting, Leo commanded, slapping my hand away from the tie he'd spent 10 minutes perfecting. You look like you're being strangled by an unusually stylish python. I feel like I'm being strangled, I muttered, fighting the urge to loosen the knot. Is this level of oxygen deprivation necessary for high culture? Absolutely, Zoe confirmed from her perch on my bed, where she'd been offering running commentary on my gallery-appropriate transformation. The suffocation adds to the artistic experience. Everyone knows real culture requires mild discomfort. My reflection stared back from our bathroom mirror, a stranger in Leo's carefully tailored navy blazer, crisp white shirt, and subtly patterned tie. He'd insisted on styling my perpetually messy hair into something he called artfully disheveled rather than actually disheveled, and the result was disorienting. I looked like someone playing the role of Eliot Chin, Art Student Edition upgraded to Eliot Chin, Gallery Attendee Premium version. You clean up shockingly well, Zoe observed. Who knew there was actual bone structure under all that artistic scruff? I'm not sure this is me, I confessed, tugging at my cuffs. That's the point, Leo said, making final adjustments. Tonight isn't about being comfortable Eliot. It's about being Eliot who belongs in that world. His words struck uncomfortably close to my core anxiety about the evening. The Brennan Gallery existed in a realm of wealth and connections that felt alien to my scholarship-dependent existence. Marcus navigated that world effortlessly. I was merely visiting on a temporary visa. My phone buzzed with a text. Car will pick you up in 15. Sorry about the formality. Dad's gallery connections equals Dad's rules. A car. Zoe's eyes widened as I showed her the message. Like an actual driver? Apparently. My stomach twisted with a fresh wave of nerves. Remember, Leo said, his tone suddenly serious, you were invited because Marcus wanted you there. Not some gallery-ready version of you. Just you. I nodded, not entirely convinced but appreciative of the sentiment. As promised, 15 minutes later, a sleek black car pulled up outside our building. The driver, professionally courteous, held the door as I slid into the back seat, feeling like an imposter in an unfamiliar play. The Brennan Gallery occupied a renovated historic building downtown, its limestone facade dramatically uplit against the evening sky. A small crowd in formal attire milled around the entrance. I took a deep breath before approaching, scanning for Marcus's familiar figure among the unfamiliar faces. Eliot. His voice came from behind me, and I turned to find him emerging from a similar black car. The sight of him momentarily stole my ability to form coherent thought. Marcus in casual clothes was unfairly attractive. Marcus in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit with a subtle blue accent that somehow matched his eyes was downright criminal. You made it, he said, relief evident in his expression. And you look. His gaze traveled briefly but unmistakably from my face to my shoes and back. Really good. Leo's doing, I admitted, finding my voice. If I'd been left to my own devices, I'd have shown up in my least paint-covered jeans. That earned a genuine laugh. I'd have let you in anyway. He gestured toward the entrance. Ready to enter the lion's den? First rule of gallery openings. The art is secondary to the networking, but we pretend otherwise. Lead on, I said, falling into step beside him. I'll follow your survival cues. Inside, the gallery gleamed with polished concrete floors and track lighting that dramatically illuminated the displayed photographs. Wait staff circulated with champagne and elaborate hors d'oeuvres. The crowd, predominantly older, expensively dressed, and exuding confidence, engaged in animated conversation punctuated by practiced laughs. Marcus. A silver-haired woman in an architectural black dress approached, air-kissing both his cheeks. Darling, your Harbor series is absolutely transcendent. The Hemmings were just discussing acquisition possibilities. Thank you, Mrs. Caldwell, Marcus replied with practiced charm. That's very kind. May I introduce Eliot Chin? He's a remarkable mixed-media artist studying with Diana Rivera. I managed what I hoped was a polite smile as Mrs. Caldwell's assessing gaze swept over me. Rivera's program. How intense. We sponsored last year's department showcase. Such raw talent. Mrs. Caldwell serves on the university's Arts Patronage Board, Marcus explained. Somebody has to ensure that creativity continues to flourish, she said with practiced modesty. Marcus, your father was looking for you. Something about the Huxtons' interest in your lighthouse triptych. We'll find him, Marcus promised, smoothly guiding me away with a light touch to my elbow. Once out of earshot, he murmured, "Sorry about that. Gallery openings are essentially social obstacle courses disguised as art appreciation." "You navigate it well," I observed. "Like you were born to it." Something flickered across his expression. I was third-generation Westfield photographer, remember? I attended my first gallery opening at 7, wearing a miniature suit and being instructed to compliment everyone's jewelry. The image of small Marcus informal wear dutifully praising accessories was both adorable and revealing. Before I could respond, a familiar voice cut through the ambient conversation. "There you are." Dr. Westfield approached, immaculate in what was clearly a bespoke suit. "The Huxtons are considering the Lighthouse series for their Carmel house. You should speak with them." His attention shifted to me, his expression cooling several degrees. "I don't believe we've been formally introduced, though I recall seeing you on campus." "Dad, this is Eliot Chin," Marcus said. "Eliot, my father, Dr. Alexander Westfield." "Chen," Dr. Westfield repeated, shaking my hand with perfunctory politeness. "You're in Diana's program." "Yes, sir," I confirmed, surprised he knew that detail. "Interesting choice for Rivera to accept a first year directly into her advanced track," he observed, his tone making it unclear whether this was compliment or criticism. "She typically requires more established portfolios." The implication hung in the air, that perhaps my acceptance had been a fluke or an exception to merit-based standards. "Rivera has excellent instincts about artistic potential," Marcus interjected, a subtle edge to his voice. "Eliot's work demonstrates exceptional spatial narrative technique." Dr. Westfield's eyebrow arched slightly. "I'm sure. Marcus, the Huxtons won't wait all evening." "I'll speak with them shortly," Marcus replied, the politeness of his tone at odds with the tension evident in his posture. His father's gaze moved between us, something calculating in his expression. "Don't wait too long. Opportunities have expiration dates." With a curt nod to me, he moved away toward a couple examining one of Marcus's photographs. "I apologize for my father," Marcus said quietly. "He has very particular views about appropriate gallery companions." "Meaning I don't qualify?" I asked, trying for lightness but feeling the sting regardless. "Meaning he believes networking should always be the priority," Marcus clarified. "But I invited you because I actually wanted you here." He glanced around the crowded gallery. "Would you like to see the exhibition properly? Without the social navigation?" I nodded, grateful for the suggestion. Marcus guided me through the gallery spaces, explaining his technical approaches and creative decisions for each photograph. Away from his father's presence and the networking crowd, he transformed, more animated, genuinely passionate about the work rather than its reception. "This series explores transition states," he explained, gesturing toward photographs of abandoned industrial spaces being reclaimed by nature. "The moment when something is no longer what it was but hasn't yet become what it will be. The in-between," I murmured, recognizing echoes of the private work he'd shown me at the lighthouse. "These feel more personal than your showcase piece at Hamilton." "They are," he admitted. "Dad thinks they're too introspective for commercial appeal, but the gallery curator disagreed." Pride colored his voice. "These are the first pieces I've exhibited that are completely my vision, not the expected Westfield aesthetic." "They're beautiful," I said sincerely. "You can feel the tension between structure and organic growth, control and surrender." Marcus studied me with an intensity that made my pulse quicken. "You see exactly what I was trying to capture." Our gazes held for a moment too long to be casual, until a passing server shattered the moment by offering champagne. Marcus accepted 2 glasses, handing me one. "There's one more place I want to show you," he said, glancing around to ensure no one was watching us. "Follow me." He led me through a staff door to a service stairwell, climbing several flights until we emerged onto the gallery's rooftop. The space was clearly not part of the public venue, a flat expanse with heating and cooling equipment, partially sheltered by a maintenance shed. But the view was breathtaking, city lights spreading in all directions, the bay shimmering in the distance. My secret escape at every Brennan opening, Marcus confessed, setting his barely touched champagne on an equipment housing. I discovered it during my first exhibition here. Sometimes I need to remember there's a world beyond gallery walls. The night air carried a slight chill, but the privacy and expansiveness of the space made it infinitely preferable to the crowded gallery below. I joined Marcus at the roof's edge, where a low parapet provided both safety and a perfect leaning spot to admire the view. Better than circulating with potential buyers? I asked. Infinitely. He turned to face me, his expression softening in the city's ambient glow. Thank you for coming tonight. Having someone here who sees the work, not just its market value, it matters. I'm glad I came, I said honestly, even with your father's chilly assessment of my artistic qualifications. Marcus winced. I should have warned you. He has strong opinions about Rivera's program, too experimental, not commercially viable enough. And about your choice of gallery companions? Something shifted in his expression, vulnerability replacing practiced composure. My father believes relationships should be strategic, professionally advantageous. And what do you believe? I asked, heart hammering against my ribs. Marcus moved closer, close enough that I could detect the subtle notes of his cologne. I believe there's value in being understood. His voice dropped lower. In finding someone who sees what you're trying to create, not what they want you to produce. The intensity of his gaze held me frozen, suspended between panic and anticipation as he leaned slightly closer. The gallery, his father, my insecurities, all receded as Marcus's hand gently came to rest against my jaw, his thumb brushing lightly across my cheekbone in a question more than a demand. I answered by eliminating the remaining distance between us, close enough now to feel the warmth of his breath, to notice the faint flecks of darker blue in his irises. A sharp electronic chirp shattered the moment. Marcus tensed, immediately reaching for his phone with an expression I couldn't quite interpret, concern mixed with resignation. He checked the screen, his features tightening. I need to take this, he said, stepping back with palpable reluctance. I'm sorry. He moved several paces away, turning his back as he answered, voice too low for me to hear the conversation. Whatever the call contained, it transformed his demeanor, shoulders tensing, posture becoming rigid. The Marcus who returned to me moments later had rebuilt his composed facade, though strain showed around his eyes. Everything okay? I asked cautiously. Fine, he said too quickly. Just a scheduling issue I need to address tomorrow. The obvious deflection hung awkwardly between us. We should head back down. I've neglected my gallery duties long enough to risk paternal disappointment. The easy connection of moments before had vanished, replaced by careful distance. As we descended the stairs in silence, I struggled to interpret what had happened, both the almost kiss and its abrupt interruption. Had I misread his intentions? Was the call genuinely routine, or something more significant he didn't want to share? Back in the gallery, Marcus slipped seamlessly into his role, charming potential buyers, graciously accepting compliments, standing for photos beside his work. I circulated on the periphery, examining the other artist's pieces while occasionally catching glimpses of him across the room. Once, our eyes met briefly over the crowd, and something like regret flashed across his features before his attention was claimed by an enthusiastic collector. Dr. Westfield intercepted me by the bar, where I'd been nursing a mineral water and contemplating a graceful exit strategy. First gallery opening? He asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. At this level, yes, I admitted. The university showcases are somewhat more casual. Indeed. He signaled the bartender for a scotch. Marcus has always had an eye for discovering unusual perspectives. It's what makes his work distinctive. Something in his phrasing suggested I was being categorized as an unusual perspective rather than a person. Your son is very talented, I offered neutrally. Talent is the foundation, not the structure, he replied. The Westfield legacy wasn't built on raw ability alone, but on strategic development and proper connections. He accepted his drink, studying me over the rim of his glass. Marcus appears to value your opinion of his work. The observation felt like a test I wasn't prepared for. I respect his artistic vision. Art school friendships can be intensely formative, Dr. Westfield continued. But ultimately, serious careers require serious focus. Marcus has responsibilities beyond his personal interests. The implication was crystal clear. I represented a distraction, not an asset. Before I could formulate a response that wouldn't further confirm his low opinion, Marcus appeared at his father's side. The Huxtons have confirmed interest in the Lighthouse series, he reported, then turned to me with a carefully neutral expression. Eliot, I apologize, but I need to handle some details with the gallery director. The car can take you home whenever you're ready. I should probably go, I said, recognizing the polite dismissal for what it was. Early class tomorrow. Congratulations on the successful opening. I'll walk you out, Marcus offered, gesturing toward the exit. Outside, away from the gallery's performative atmosphere, awkwardness settled between us. The almost moment on the rooftop hung unacknowledged in the space between us. Thank you for coming, Marcus said finally. It meant a lot to have someone there who... He trailed off, seeming to search for words. Sees the work, I suggested, echoing his earlier phrase. Yes. Relief crossed his features. Exactly that. The car appeared at the curb, summoned by the gallery's doorman. As it pulled up, Marcus hesitated, then said, about what almost happened upstairs. It's fine, I interrupted, suddenly afraid of whatever explanation might follow. Heat of the moment. No need to overthink it. Something like disappointment flashed across his face, but he nodded. Of course. As the driver held the door, I paused. Your exhibition is truly exceptional, Marcus. Not because of the Westfield name or your father's connections. Because of what you see and how you capture it. For a brief moment, his carefully maintained composure slipped, revealing genuine emotion beneath. That means more than any sales figure. He stepped back as I entered the car. I'll text you tomorrow? It was half statement, half question. I nodded, offering what I hoped was a casual smile as the door closed between us. During the silent ride home, I replayed the evening in fragmented images, Dr. Westfield's assessing gaze, Marcus's passionate explanations of his work, the city lights spread below us on the rooftop, the moment of connection shattered by an unexplained call. What remained most vivid was not the almost kiss, but Marcus's expression when I'd praised his work for itself, not its pedigree or market value. I'd glimpsed something beneath his polished exterior, a vulnerability that mirrored my own, a desire to be seen rather than assessed. The irony wasn't lost on me that while Professor Rivera was pushing me toward greater vulnerability in my art, I was simultaneously retreating from emotional vulnerability with Marcus. The car stopped outside my apartment building, and as I thanked the driver, my phone buzzed with a text from Zoe. Did Prince Charming sweep you off your artistic feet? Details required immediately. I stared at her message, unsure how to explain an evening that had expanded my understanding of Marcus while simultaneously increasing the mystery surrounding him. The almost kiss, the interrupted moment, the unexplained call, all suggested depths I hadn't yet been permitted to explore. One thing was certain, whatever was happening between Marcus and me had moved beyond simple friendship. The question was whether either of us was brave enough to acknowledge it.